From a scary night in a casino parking lot to a medical emergency that ended up in the ER to a terrifying road that we went down. Those are just a few of the things that we're going to talk about in this video.
Each one of these things made us almost rethink living this lifestyle. We hope that we can pass on this experience to you so you don't make the same mistakes.
Today we want to talk about 5 more experiences that we've had, scary experiences while RV living. And we had another video with 5 experiences, and be sure to catch that one. I'll link it somewhere, either at the end of this video or somewhere else. The first experience we wanted to talk about happened, I think, our second year RVing. We sometimes have boondocked at casinos overnight, and we went to a casino we had never been before, and it kind of, the lot was a little farther away, and there were a couple of trucks there, and we pulled in and we thought it would be okay. And then as the night progressed, and we were just so tired, Sal saw some people. We have a big back window on our RV, and Sal saw some people out there pull up in cars and talking to each other, and so he started getting a little bit suspicious.
From what I saw outside for the back window, there was some kind of, it seemed like there were transactions going on, and we just didn't get a good feeling about it. And that was probably the first and only night where I don't think I slept in the bed. I stayed up that night and just kept watch outside the back window.
I ended up doing a search on the crime data for that area, and I found out it was a very high crime area. There's a rating of 1 to 100, and 1 is the worst, and it was a 1. I just got so scared, and I'm like, Sal, what should we do? Should we pack up and leave? And Sal said, no, I think it'll be okay. I'll keep getting up and check and make sure everything's okay. So there were a couple of trucks there, but it was quite a scary night, and I didn't sleep very well. And then when we got up in the morning, Sal looked around, and there were like a lot of like those little alcohol bottles, but
yeah,
there were needles.
Lots and lots of needles. I'm not just talking about a few needles. I'm talking about they were all over the place, which spoke volumes to us actually, about what was going on there at that particular parking lot. And if there's a lesson to be learned there, it's to always do some research before you go camp anywhere, to investigate the area, to find out what the crime rate is, or if there's anything negative about the area that you're going to be planning to stay in.
The second incident was really hard for me. Sal works at a campground during the summer season in New York, and then when he's not working, then we travel to the Southwest usually. We were here at this campground, and it was actually getting close to the time we were going to be leaving for the season when Sal, I think, was checking the generators.
I was checking the generators and starting them like I usually do to maintain them.
So he went out, and then all of a sudden I hear a knock on the door, and I was like, who could be knocking on the door? Well, it was Sal knocking on the door, and with blood running down his head, and it was, I went into shock, and I just started walking back and forth, and I didn't know what to do. And then I contacted Sal's sister, and we ended up we had to drive to urgent care, and we're kind of out away from anything, so we had to drive about 40 minutes maybe to get there. And then they got him to the urgent care, and they said, oh no, he had to go to the emergency room because they couldn't take care of it. And then he had to go to the emergency room in an ambulance, and I couldn't go with him because of the precautions at the time. He ended up having a brain bleed, and he ended up spending the night at the emergency room, and that was a really horrible experience.
That was scary to say the least. And if there's one thing that I can give advice on with that, is if you have a fifth wheel, or if there's any chance of you hitting your head anywhere around an RV, but especially a fifth wheel, and there's a hitch, be careful if you go under there. It taught me to always wear a helmet. I asked in the emergency room, I asked the doctor, and I said, Doctor, if I would have had a helmet on, would this have happened? And the doctor said, it would have saved you. It wouldn't have happened. And ever since then, I always put on a helmet. Now, some people might look at me and say, oh, what's that guy have a helmet on? It might save you, who knows, potentially even your life. And
It might save your life.
it might save my life. I'll tell you something. Ever since I started wearing that helmet, I have hit my head at least 2 more times. It could have been pretty bad. One time, something fell on my head. That there was a ladder, and a friend of mine that I was working with, he was helping me to repair one of the windows, and he left. I think he left a hammer up on the ladder, and I went to move the ladder, and the hammer came flying down and hit me right on the helmet. Didn't feel a thing, not even nothing. That saved me there. And another time, I went under the RV again with the helmet on, and I hit something under there. I hit one of the sides, and again, it saved me that time. And I've heard stories of people actually getting knocked out under there. They hit their head on it, and they actually have gotten knocked out. So it's worth, at the very least, be very, very careful when you're under there. If you have a fifth wheel, be careful if you go under there and near your hitch, especially, and because you never know, if you can hit your head, and it can be pretty bad. Or at the very least, always be aware what's around you when you're working around the RV.
Yes, Al had actually hit his head on the hitch that time. He had hit his head several times when we were RVing over the years, and I started telling him, don't go under there anymore. But he kept going under there. He was stubborn, and one time he hit it. We were camping with friends. He hit it, and I think he actually fell down onto the ground.
In Italian, they have a saying. It's called testa dura, and that means hard head. I had a hard head. I wouldn't listen to Sharon, and had I listened to Sharon, I would have wore a helmet long before that, and none of that would have happened.
The third scary experience we want to talk about is a very scary road in Tennessee that we went down. We were in Virginia, and we decided to go through Tennessee. We were going actually to Clarksville because we had seen Mickey Dolenz that year in concert, and so we wanted to go to Clarksville. We thought it would be fun, and I actually was surprising Sal. He didn't know we were going to Clarksville. We left Virginia, and Google Maps, we use Google Maps, and we use our GPS. And so Google Maps said this one road was a business route, and I said, Sal, I don't know. And then he went ahead and took it, and it wasn't his fault. It's just Google Maps told us to go down this route, and it was a business route. And then as we started driving down, the road got really narrow, and we couldn't turn back because our rig is too big. And then we just kept going, and it got really bad, and like into a deserted kind of area. And we made this one turn, and we heard a bang when we made the turn. And then at that point, we really couldn't turn back because I didn't want to go back through that turn again. And we saw some houses, but we couldn't get a hold of anybody, and it was quite quite an experience. And then finally a man came along, and Sal was gone off somewhere, and a man came along, and he told me that we could get through the rest of the way. We could get through there. So we did end up getting out of there, but it was a horrifying experience, and I didn't have any cell service to even try to call police or anything.
That was quite a nightmare. And if there's one lesson learned that I would give advice on that, always make sure you check your Google directions. Make sure that the roads you're going on are wide enough for your RV or whatever it is you're hauling. Make sure you're absolutely sure about the road you go on. Don't take any risks.
We weren't sure.
Exactly.
So we should have stayed on the sure road. That was like a route.
Exactly.
Generally, if it has a route number, it's going to be okay.
Exactly.
We have a video about each of these experiences. I'll link all the videos about these experiences. But the one about the road in Tennessee, that's quite a video. The fourth scary experience that we want to talk about is a time when we were in Oklahoma. It was actually last season when we were heading from the Buffalo, New York area to Arizona. And we were in Oklahoma, and we were trying to navigate through stormy weather. It was early November, I believe, late October, early November, and we had to try to navigate stormy weather and tornado weather. And so what we try to do is we try to not stay anywhere where there are thunderstorms. We were in Joplin, Missouri, and we wanted to get out of there sooner, but there were 2 windy days, and so we couldn't. So the first day we could go was actually a day that they were calling for tornadoes to come across Oklahoma. And so what we were doing is getting all the way across from Joplin to Tuxila, Oklahoma, which is on the other end of Oklahoma, and it was going to be safe there. But especially by the time we got there. But we had to drive through stuff, but we were trying to avoid it. So we were driving, and we were almost probably about 60 miles before our destination, and we saw stormy, dark, scary weather, and we pulled over.
It was just incredible how foreboding it looked. The clouds looked, the sky looked, and so we prayed, and the storms passed. The lesson that we learned from that experience is that we should always check our weather app and never take any risks. We don't want to get caught in any kind of tornadoes or flooding or anything of that nature. It's too dangerous, and it's just not worth it.
The fifth experience that we're talking about today is something that just happened about 3 or 4 months ago. It was when we arrived at this campground, and I was trying to back the rig into this spot, and I was having trouble getting it over far enough we have boards that we have to go on, and I was having trouble getting it over far enough. Instead of pulling out onto the road and then trying to back it back in, I had this brainy idea to go straight across. There are 2 spots, there's like 2 rows of spots, and it was empty. I was going to drive between 2 spots. There was a spot, a little bit of grass, and another spot. And I thought, oh, I can get through there. Some wheels will always be on the spot. And I got stuck with the RV, the back wheels in mud. It was so bad. We tried to get someone to pull us out with their truck, and they couldn't. It was stuck so badly that we were afraid of having damage to the RV. Somebody told us like tow service would end up costing $1,000, and I was just, it was awful. But luckily, we were able to get out. We got a tow service, but we had a reasonable price, and everything worked out. But that was that was really something, that experience.
With God's help, we were able to find a really good tow service that was reasonable. And what we learned that day was that we should always stay on a RV site. We shouldn't go through sites that aren't RV sites, especially in April or in an area where it's been raining, because you just don't know what that ground is like around that time of the year. Has anything like this ever happened to you in your travels? And if so, let us know. Let us know your experiences. Comment, and also while you're at it, please subscribe, like, and share these videos. And in case you don't know who we are, I'm Sal, this is Sharon, and we live in an RV with our cats Seymour, Henry, and Alexander.
Here's Alexander. There is Henry, a black and white kitty. And we have one more cat named Seymour, and he's out there. And so we left. What are you doing, Henry? Henry's over here.
He wants to be in the video too.